All right, so look at this worksheet that you all pulled up. Do you remember when problems were as easy as stick 2 in the function? That's what we started with this year. And sometimes these will be like, oh my gosh, it was so easy back then. And other times you'll be like, we actually got tested on this? I don't even remember it at all. So let's go to some of the more tricky ones. Obviously, sticking 2 in a function is pretty easy. So this would be square root of 4, which is 2. Don't think there's 2 square roots. There isn't. It's just 2. And then 2 minus 3 makes negative 1. This is a pretty easy concept. But what about if they're nested like this? Then remember that you first find f of negative 1 by sticking it in the function. And I'm not saying what it is, but let's say it came out to 6. Then you do h of 6. Know what I mean? Figure out what f of negative 1 is first. All right. Where they get even weirder is when they say stuff like this. Everybody look at K as in kryptonite. So how do you do that? You stick a minus 1 into the f function. So wherever you find the f function, you stick in a minus 1. So here's my f function up here. And I stick in a minus 1. Well, where do you put it? Well, there's only one place to put stuff. A minus 1 is going to go in where the variable is. So right in here, I would put it in parentheses. A lot of times the parentheses can drop, but not always. I'd put it in parentheses just to be sure. And parentheses, a minus 1 goes right there. And then, yeah, your answer is going to have this in it, because there's no way to do the square root of a. Like, you don't know what that is. But you can simplify it a little bit. This minus 1 can go with this 2. That can be simplified a little bit. And then that's your answer. Okay. So what about the kind... oh, wait. And then it does say you're supposed to find a when blah, blah, blah. So then they're asking you to solve for a. So when you're done with all of that, you get the a alone. So that might be a bit trickier than you'd think, because it's got a square root of the a. How do you get rid of a square root? By squaring it. All right. All right, here's another kind. Look at n as in Nancy. It says f of x equals 2. And a common mistake is kids say, oh, so x is 2. No, no, f of x is 2. Do you get they just told you the y value is 2 for the f function. All right, so we go to the f function, and we don't stick in x is 2. We stick in y is 2 in the f function. So that's back to this main function here again. And it said not that x was 2. It said that f of x was 2. So this right here is a 2. That's where the y value goes. And then you solve it. So you'd add 3 to both sides. To get rid of a square root, you'd square it. Okay. So I'm just giving you a little bit of help on this worksheet, and then as the rest of the hour progresses, you're going to get your tests back. You'll get a chance to see what you did right and wrong on your cumulative tests. I did get them graded last night. And then all you really have to do is study this part of the final. Then next week, we're going to do 2 worksheets like this every day. And that'll cover every chapter we've had. If we take 2 chapters a day, we'll be able to cover every chapter we had. You're not going to have to do every problem of every worksheet, but you'll at least want to practice every chapter we did. So if we do 2 a day, we'll actually get done early. And, when we get to the very last day, we should be done with everything and even have time to go back to anything you want. So that's basically the next several days, is reviewing old stuff. All right, how about look at Q as in quintillion. It says 5k2 plus 1. Sometimes it helps to just know where to start. Liam, where would you start this problem? I'll tell you if you're doing it right.
Get the rest of the equation and then just line it up.
What equation?
The k equation.
The K equation, and then what would you do with the K equation if you had it?
I'd plug in the 2 and
Exactly.
then yeah.
So you'd start right there. You'd stick 2 into the K equation. And then when you're done with all of that, you times it by 5 and then add 1. So think of K of 2 as like a number. You'll get K of 2 by sticking 2 into the K function. All right. On the next page, they do stuff from graphs. This I found the best way to do it is to try to figure out, did they just tell me an X number or a Y number? So everybody get to this page, please. I know some of you are on the other page still. Get flipped to this page. Now when they say f of 0, did they just tell you the X number or did they just tell you the Y? This is tricky, so think. They just told you X is what? 0, because this is where X goes. And they stuck a 0 there. So they're telling you, hey, buddy, X is 0. That's what they really just told you. And if X is 0, they want you to tell them what Y equals. That's what this is asking. Is when they say f of 0, they're saying, hey, I'll tell you that X is 0. Would you tell me what f of 0 is? Which is like the Y value. All right, so if I go over to my graph and I look at X is 0, here's where X is -1, here's where X is 1, oh, here's where X is 0, and I follow it up. That's my spot. That spot is 0, 1. When you stick in 0, you get 1. This is X, and this spot is f of X. Okay, so they told you X was 0, and they wanted to know the Y value, which is like this part of that point right there. So it must be 1. F of 0 equals 1. So what does that mean about this format? That means that's the X and that's the Y. So it means it's 0, 1. Anytime you see this kind of notation, remember, they're giving you a point. That's the X, that's the Y. Okay, so that works great until you get to E as an elephant. And what happens on E? Niven, what are they telling us? Are they telling this the X or the Y? The X is not 3. What are they telling me on E?
I don't know how to explain it.
All right. Would you agree that f of X is not the same as X?
Yeah.
And what is it? If it's not X, what is it? There's only one other choice. That's Y. So they just told you Y is -3. By saying this, they said, hey, Y is -3. And that kind of begs the question, what's X? Okay, so all of these start with like find. Find X when f of X is -3. So Niven, they told us Y is -3. What do I do? No, not the formula, the chart. Ah, it's this. Okay, so if they tell me Y is -3. Am I looking for this spot right there? No, because that's where X is -3. Am I looking for that spot there?
Yeah.
Yes, because that is where Y is -3. So now, they don't want me to tell them what Y is again. They already told me that. They want to know what X is. I like to put the point and go, well, at X is -5, Y is -3. See, that's that point right there. -5, -3. So when they told us f of X was -3, we can tell them back that X must be -5. Okay? That's how to think these through. They're telling you either X or Y. In this case, they told us Y was -3, and they were asking, what is X? And we figured it out, and I think it was it -5? Right? All right. So let's go on to this one is the hardest kind. Most people want an A on this test. You'll get like 2 out of the 4 problems in each section, right? Super easy. And then it's down to, can you get the other couple? Well, this is going to be like the last hard one. And you really want this one if you have a chance at an A. I remember doing these, and I remember it was really tough for a lot of kids. I always did it this way. I figured out f of what is negative 3. From looking at the chart, I figured out what this must be. F of what is negative 3. So again, have they told me the x? No, they did not tell me the x. They told me the y value. That's where y goes. They did not tell me x. In fact, they gave me this confusing thing for x. So we got to figure out f of what comes out to negative 3. So the y value is negative 3. So then I go back to my chart here and I go, okay, y is negative 3. So then I'm going over here and, oh, x is negative 5. So now you write, careful, I would strongly recommend doing this right now. F of negative 5 is negative 3. And then this highlighted part is the key. So x plus 2 must be negative 5. That's its own little equation then. All right. You're using a table, last kind. Again, this is the easy kind where they just told us that the x is negative 1. So that begs the question, what's y? So I'm going to go and find f of negative 1. So f functions here. Oops, I thought I had a highlighter there. F functions there. F of negative 1 is, that's where the negative 1 is. That's how you read that kind. You use the F line, of course. There's no G mentioned. And then x is negative 1, and it overlaps there at the 2. Must equal 2. All right, same thing applies when there's a nested one. You start in there. They just told you that x was 0. That's where the x number goes. G of x, right? Except they told us x is 0. So they really just told us x was 0 and to use the G function, and then you'll get an answer, and then you do f of that. Whatever G of 0 is. Here's G of 0, and I'll let you do it from there. All right, these definitely lend themselves, especially at the end of the section, to be like, these can be tricky. And if you want to talk through with somebody, you got me. Also, there's a key. I do recommend that you look at the key first. If you get stumped on one of these, please look at the key first. And if you still don't understand it after looking at the key, then bring it up to me and I'll happily help you. The only reason I'm saying look at the key first is because there might be a lot of questions. And I don't want there to be a huge never-ending line at my desk. I want to help, but I'd rather help like one kid at a time. Question?
So could you go back to number 8 for the
Yes, this one.
Can't you just figure out what x is?
That's what you are supposed to do at the end. But to do that, if you never used a negative 5, you would never get the problem right. But you have to figure out that these now are equal to each other. So if you write that equation, if you never went and found the negative 5, you wouldn't know what to solve for. And yes, at the end, you want to know what x is. All right. So if you want help, I'm here. And this is a shorter than normal one because we're only covering one test or one chapter. Why are we only covering one chapter today? Because I also need to hand back your cumulative tests and give you a chance to look at those. There will be some kids who will, like be frustrated because, I made 3 stupid mistakes and it hurt my grade. Remember, you have several tests in there now. I went back and looked, and I think we're at 800 points worth of tests. Okay, so you've got a lot of points in there. So this one test isn't going to massively change your grade. And for the final is going to count as just one more test. Let's say, so if we've got 800 or 900 points worth of tests, then the final will count as another 100-point test, just like all the other tests. So it's not going to be like super heavy weighted on the final. In fact, if you want to make yourself feel better, only 10% of your grade of the test part of your grade, because remember, homework counts too. Of the summative part of your grade, only 10% of the summative part is going to be this final. I mean, it matters, but it's usually what happens on the final is the kid gets the same grade as what they usually get, and then that's what their grade is. There are very few stories of kids who ace the final and raise their grade. That's pretty rare. There's a lot of stories of kid gets the same grade or maybe a little lower than their average, and their grade stays the same as it was. That's what happens almost every time. Is there a few cases where kids just check out during finals week, bomb the final, and lower their grade? Yes. But it usually goes down, the most it goes down is a half of a grade. So if you have an A- right now, you might slip to a B+. And you can prevent that by just studying hard this week. All right, that's all I have for you for today. There is a Schoology quiz that actually counts in your grade. This one is for practice. It's for you to do so that you're ready for the test. The final is what really counts. These little homework assignments at this point are such a small percentage of your grade. I'm going to recommend that you do the Schoology quiz just because it counts for some points and every point is good. But the key is really to just learn this stuff. So the PDF parts, that's not going to count in your grade. It's on you to do the parts that you think you should do for practice and learn it. But the Schoology quizzes, those are going to be in your grade. There's a little Schoology quiz for each day. Okay, so there's one of those right now. If you want to go just do that right away, go ahead. Then you're done with the only thing you have to do. But you don't want to just have this be the first time you see this on the final. Like, you want to do one ahead of time before you get there. And look at the key and ask me for help. All right, that's all I have for you for today.